Welcome to our special webinar series today, The Hero's Journey. So good to see you all. As you all are coming in, do share with us where you're joining in from. Do share your names with us. I am Kiva from Team Coacharya, and you can see we have with us our host of today's webinar, Avril, and our guest for today, Venerable Tenzin Namjong, here with us. We welcome you all, and as you all are coming in, I am going to just quickly share my screen as well with you all. Do keep using the chat box to share with us where you're coming in from, what you are looking forward to in today's special series that we've got for you called The Hero's Journey, which our lovely Coacharya alumna Avril is going to be hosting with our special guest, Venerable Tenzin Namjong. So before I hand it over to Avril, I am going to just take a minute to introduce Avril and Venerable Tenzin for you all. As you can see on the screen as well, Avril is a mindfulness coach and a best-selling author. She's worked with several corporates. She is somebody who I think whose hero's journey you'll recall from last month. It all left us super inspired. And so we thought, why not have Avril come in and bring in more people from different spaces to share their hero's journey with all of us. So today she's brought here with us a special guest, Venerable Tenzin Namjong. He was born and raised in Hawaii and received a BA in philosophy from Princeton University before embracing the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Today with Avril, he's going to be sharing with all of us his hero's journey. Thank you so much, Venerable Tenzin, for taking the time out for us. We're truly honored. This feels like a very, very special webinar, and we appreciate you taking the time out for all of us today. So I welcome you all again, and I'm going to now hand it over to Avril.
Thank you so much, Kiva. It's always a hard act to follow when you're hosting these things because you're so at ease with it. But thank you for the introduction. And good morning, Venerable. I believe it's
good morning.
It's 5 something in Hawaii. What time is it?
5:33.
5:33. Okay. Thank you so much, first of all, for waking up at this unearthly hour to be with us. The time difference is staggering, but I truly, truly appreciate you being here. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone on this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us on this series called The Hero's Journey. So basically, the intention of this series is to capture remarkable journeys of ordinary people doing extraordinary things with their lives in terms of the journey they have taken so far in this earthly body. And for us to understand the travails and the kind of journey they have had, and maybe for us to seek inspiration from their journey. So today we have somebody who is very, very, very close to my heart. I will introduce him the way I know Tenzin Namjong. So he's my teacher. He's a very close friend, and I regularly seek advice from him. And in his inimitable way, he keeps me accountable spiritually and as a person in my self-development in this journey. He has a lot of compassion, a lot of skill. And when I first turned to Buddhism and embraced Buddhism, he was the one who would literally tutor me every week, taking incredible amounts of time from his busy schedule in Sera Jey Monastery in Bailakuppe, which is near Mysore in Bangalore. He's currently on vacation in Hawaii, his home country. And he's with his mom. And so that's why it's really early for him. And he's been kind enough to do this with us. And so I'll just tell you a little bit. He was born as Matthew Passion. That was his name before. Now he's Venerable Tenzin Namjong. And he's been studying in the Geshe program in Sera Jey Monastery in Mysore in South India since 2007, and received his full ordination vows in 2011 from His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. So welcome everybody. We have a short Q&A, so you can get your questions ready. I must tell you something that I've noticed about Venerable Namjong. He's incredibly intelligent and incredibly witty. And so, and we can see some sort of tree of life behind him, which is quite intriguing. So without further delay, okay. So I told you he's quite witty. So without further delay, I'm going to hand it over to you, Venerable. So would you like to say something before we start our questions to our eclectic universal audience?
Sure. Just hello and welcome to everyone. Thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and listen to me. Thank you to you, Avril, to all the good folks at Coacharya for hosting this event. And yeah, we'll try. Let's have a nice discussion. All the intelligence and wit maybe it's not fully woken up yet, but you know, let's try.
Thank you, Venerable. So let me start with asking you the question. Can you tell us in your own words, what is a hero's journey for you? How can you relate with our theme?
Yeah, so of all the questions you sent to me earlier, this was the one that I had to do the most research. So the past couple of days, I reviewed the Odyssey by Homer. I reviewed, one of my friends sent me the 12-step hero journey described by Joseph Campbell. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't really think I'm that kind of hero, the one who against all odds, slays the demons and, is the big hero in the sense of winning over all these, frightful enemies. So for me, yes, when we talk in the kind of cultural tradition that we were brought up in, there's this idea of the hero who has the amazing skills and prowess and talent and cunning and strength. And, they overcome all of the obstacles that are laid out in front of them and sort of win, right? They're the victor. And, in our culture, especially, in this day and age, this has been sort of accelerated. We see it in popular, movies and stories. And even in the world, there's a kind of a winner takes all. And in any kind of given field. So I used to play sport, a bit. I used to play tennis. And even like in a tennis tournament, right? We care about, we think about, the one who wins the Grand Slam, the one who wins Wimbledon, one who wins all these major tournaments. But in any given tournament, there's 64 people who enter and only one winner, right? So in my own journey, yes, I have, left home. I'm on my own odyssey. And at the beginning of the journey, I was thinking, right, got very inspired by my gurus, the Dalai Lama, other great masters. And I thought, okay, I'm going to follow in their footsteps and all these major goals of liberation, enlightenment. I said, yeah, okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. As then I took a few steps, then you realize, wow, what a major undertaking that is. And in my own space, I've had to have this balance, right? Of we have these very lofty aspirations, but as we go along the path, there also has to be some sense of being gentle with ourselves and to have this thought that, okay, everything is okay as things are now. And, for me, or when we look, those people, in the Wimbledon or whatever, There's only going to be one winner, right? And so if we set as our such a tight goal that, okay, I have to win, and maybe, not only I have to win Wimbledon, but I have to be the greatest of all time, right? These three, Roger Federer, I'm sorry for the tennis analogy, but Roger Federer, Nadal and Djokovic, right? Now they're all kind of neck and neck. They've each won like 19, 20 of these Grand Slam tournaments, right? And so the more we set up for ourselves that, I have to be the hero, the greatest of all time, then the mind becomes very tight, right? And so for me, yes, having these greater goals of, liberation, enlightenment, yes, but also in the present, to have the space not to put too much pressure, on myself to be the best in the world, to be, an enlightened being. That is something I've tried to integrate in the past few years, right? And especially, you see, there's one great Tibetan master who says, when we practice with fantasized expectations, we'll only get fantasized results, right? So, yeah, we can have those big goals out there, but on the day-to-day basis, right? What do I do today? When I interact with this person, how do I interact with them that's going to, bring benefit, and try to be in the moment. So that's what I'm trying to balance. There's this thing, especially, I think some of it also depends in the sort of East and West view of ourselves, and in the West generally there's a lot more emphasis on the individual, versus in the East a lot more emphasis on the collective.
Yeah.
So especially trying to overcome a little bit of my cultural training, where the individual is number one, and personal accomplishment trumps all. Well, we have our story of the Odyssey and Odysseus. Many of us know, right? After the Trojan War, he's then returning home, and it takes him 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, he is the hero, but in his party, he's the only one who made it home, right? All of the rest of his the people in his army, they all perished, right? And so we're holding that up as the example, but how that happens, the story of maybe some of you not so familiar, but you all heard of the Cyclops, right? So at one point, Odysseus is with the Cyclops, and he's he's trapped in the cave with the Cyclops, and has to use his kind of cunning intelligence to escape. And part of it, he did a little smart thing. He said that his name was No One, right? So at one time when he attacks, he blinds the Cyclops with a spear. Then the Cyclops actually was so strong, he put a boulder in front of the cave so that people couldn't escape, Odysseus and his party. But since Odysseus had said, my name is No One, then when he gets attacked, he's yelling from the inside like, oh, no one is attacking me. No one is attacking me. So the other Cyclopses who are outside, they think, oh, okay, no, yeah, he's not being attacked. So that they don't come to his aid, right? But as finally he's leaving, right, Odysseus, out of pride, says, hey, by the way, to the Cyclops, yeah, I am the great Odysseus, and I'm the one who, outsmarted you. And now I'm leaving. Ha ha ha, right? The pride, the hubris. Well, because of that, then Cyclops, his father was Poseidon, the god of the sea, tells his father. And so then the god of the sea then makes all the, the shipwrecks and all this stuff. And that's how the rest of the party perishes, right? So, sorry for for the Cliff's Notes on the Odyssey. But in any case, because of the high sort of emphasis on the individual and the individual accomplishment being, number one and most important, and now Odysseus has this great epic written about him, right? Then that can also involve that we get the pride. We have this thought of the I am most important and those around me less important. And this itself also can be an obstacle to the sort of highest expression of our individual potential, right? Yeah. So that's also something I'm trying to work through, right? And how this plays out is this this concept of self-inflation, right? I think there's a famous study done, and they asked American college professors, right, to assess their own skills. 94% of American college professors think they're above average, right? Right? So, in sum, yes, we have these big goals. We have to work toward those goals. But in the present, having that at the kind of foremost, that we then think, I have to be the victor, I have to be the best, I have to become enlightened, it can put a lot of pressure. Yeah. That pressure itself can prevent us from achieving, right? Yeah. So this balance between being gentle in the present moment while working toward the goals is something that that I'm trying to do. And having this thought of, the hero not necessarily being the victor, but just small h hero, like I'm the protagonist in my own story. Protagonist sounds a lot, okay. not as much pressure, right? Yeah. And yeah, enlightenment, no enlightenment, okay. I'm just trying to get through the day the best I can.
Yep. Wow, that was quite an answer. I mean, it really encompassed so much, but I like your take on being the hero of your own story and having your own path. And thank you for that. I'd like to ask you, what sparked, the shift for you to leave your life behind in New York and London and to come to India to study Buddhism?
Well, what sparked my shift was suffering.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay.
So, yeah, I think I don't know how much of it came out in my biography, but yeah, I graduated from Princeton. Actually, I studied philosophy in part because even from a young age, I was interested deeply in the question about how I should live my life. I think part of this was shaped by the fact that my beloved father, he passed away when I was quite young. And so already from a young age, seeing the mortality of my father, then asked me, okay, well, what am I doing here? What kind of life should I lead? And then studying philosophy in part was driven by that inquiry. In the course of my university studies, however, I did get disillusioned with academic philosophy because the things that were inspiring about, how I should live my life, then when you get into more advanced level courses, it gets so focused on these kind of minutiae, these kind of academic points that I felt were divorced from the questions that were really inspiring to me. And so what to do? At one point, I thought I was going to be a philosophy professor. And then when that fell away, well, go work on Wall Street, right? Like so many of my classmates. then, you know, try to make money, try to have a career. And at one point, you know, I was making decent money. I was, you know, traveling on expense account, staying in fancy hotels, eating out at fancy places, all the things that, you know, society values so much, right? And yet, a lot of stress, no mental peace. And so one of my colleagues actually had recommended that I start to do yoga as a stress relief and for my health. So I started to go, and through yoga, I got into meditation. And through all of this, I found a lot of peace, which was, yeah, surprising to me. Because at one point in my life, you know, I was raised Catholic. Then during university, I sort of became atheist, and I even had a negative kind of view toward all this, like kind of mumbo jumbo or, you know, wishy-washy, frou-frou stuff. But then through my own experience, practicing, wow, I could see, wow, there's something's happening here, something's working. And so through my own experience, having some peace come through a very few first steps down the path of yoga and meditation, I decided to go deeper and deeper. At one point then, you know, I left my job. And at that point, I thought, hey, you know, I got to really figure out what I'm going to do with my life. So I actually moved back to Hawaii, and I had this thought I would sort of reprioritize the things that had been important to me, but I didn't have time for, or, you know, working 80 hours a week in New York and London. So I came back here. At one point, I was a musician, right? And so I was playing music around town. I used to write a lot more than I do now. So I was doing a lot of creative writing. I was just trying to kind of reset and see what life, where it's going to take me with my own interests, and not put any pressure, not have any agenda, but just be, just live. And after about 6 months living here, it was good. I had my yoga practice. I was playing music around town, but I figured, you know what, if I'm really serious about this, I should just go to India and study yoga. And so I bought one of these around the world tickets, and I was traveling in Asia, and I wanted to really explore the different traditions that are found in Asia. So I stayed at a Zen monastery in Japan. I went to Thailand, stayed at a monastery and Vipassana center there. I stayed at a yoga ashram in India. I also went to Bodh Gaya and did a 1 month Vipassana retreat there. I went to Dharamsala, met His Holiness Dalai Lama for the first time. Oh, sorry, when I say met, it wasn't like, hi, how are you? I went to a public teaching where there was tens of thousands of people, and I saw him from a distance, okay? But in any case, yeah, that's what sparked me through suffering, wanting to find, hey, what should I do with my life? Having some hypothesis through some experience that, hey, maybe yoga and meditation is going to be good for me. Maybe it's going to be instrumental in attaining the inner peace that I was seeking. And then just pulling the trigger and saying, okay, if I'm serious about this, I'm going to go. So, yeah.
Okay. Wow. So that's quite a journey, going all over Asia and studying different traditions and then coming to India and seeing His Holiness among tens of thousands of people. And thank you for that. It was quite vivid. So would you mind walking us through the time when you decided to become a monk? Like what preceded this decision? Because it's a huge step, right? Especially in the tradition you are, in the Gelug tradition, because, you know, you have to study for like 20 years. Philosophy, which is not easy. I'm still lost with Buddhist philosophy, even though you've tried very hard to teach me. I'm like a leaky pot.
Yes.
Thank you for
well, Well, hey, no, I'm also having problems with the philosophy. Don't worry.
I don't think so, considering that you
No.
stand first or second in your class and on a regular basis. I don't think so. And that too in Tibetan. So
Wow.
you're very humble, but yeah. Could you just explain to us?
Yeah, so basically the decision to become a monk, right? So I was already living in India for a few years, and I got to the point where everything that I was studying, I believed in, right? So I believed in liberation, enlightenment. I thought this was, possible. And I thought, okay, let's go for it. And the thing with becoming a monk is, yes, there are sacrifices you make, but generally it's about sort of arranging your external life, where a lot of the external worldly concerns you sort of put aside and devote yourself wholeheartedly, single-pointedly toward your study and practice. And I thought, well, let me take my best shot at trying to become enlightened in this life. And yeah, I had the external conditions that allowed that to happen. I had the internal conditions of having, faith and meeting the teacher. And so then when those things align, upon consulting with my teachers, they encouraged me. And so I, how should we say, took the plunge. I went for it. Yeah.
Took the leap of faith. I don't know. That's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once you took your vows with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, what were the most challenging mind shifts that you had to make? The mindset shifts that you have to make?
Yeah. So, it's not just after I took the vows, but I think all of us, one mind shift that we have to make when we talk about personal development. I read once that all of personal development is, focusing on the long term versus the short term, right?
Yeah.
And so in a lot of the kind of personal development literature, you'll hear about this marshmallow test, right? Where in the 70s in Stanford, they basically, get these 4 and 5-year-olds, they put a marshmallow in front of them. They say, okay, you can eat this marshmallow, or you can wait 15 minutes and then we'll give you 2 marshmallows, right? And then they assess who chooses to eat now or who later, and then they track these people. And the people who could wait, and they had all these, fantastic results in their life, right? So, of course, now even this test has been sort of called into question, but just this concept, right, of the short-term gain versus the long-term, right? This notion of delayed gratification, right, comes up. And so, it comes up in many times, right? Whether we choose to, sit on the couch and binge Netflix, or we go out and get a run, right? Whether we choose to, spend today, amass all sorts of, credit card debt, right, to enjoy this life, or whether we save diligently, and, budget our finances well. So this thing is coming up again and again and again, right? These choices we have to make. So in general, right, now, in Buddhism, right, it's the ultimate long-term thinking, right, where we have past and future lives. So even this life, it's just, we might live to be 80, 90, but our future lives, right? Then we talk about liberation, enlightenment, all these things, very long-term.
Yeah.
So those are the goals we set. Yet again, this thing that I'm now coming to, right, with the short term. For some time, especially at the beginning of my journey, there's a lot of energy, right? And one can, with that energy, endure a lot of sacrifice. But, you know, as they say, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, then go with others, right? I think that's an African proverb. So at the beginning, having all that energy and that spark of inspiration, it takes you quickly, right? But the longer I go on my journey, then I'm recognizing more and more the importance of having a good support network around you, right? And so some of that, you need some joy, some human connection, just to achieve some kind of balance and to feel that, hey, it's not just, you know, self-mortification and enduring all this pain and suffering now, but oh yeah, don't worry, in the future, some future life, then you'll be okay, you know?
Yeah.
So here I am, vacation in Hawaii, right? We got to relax. We got to know, even, you know, taking the long-term perspective, right? To know when to allow yourself to take a break.
Yeah.
And to enjoy. So that that has been the greatest sort of mind shift.
Okay.
And now coming back and even being like, how do I balance these two?
Yeah.
That's what I've had to deal with, and I'm still struggling through it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hawaii seems a good deal for now.
Yes.
Even though we're still in samsara, but it's, you know, it's everybody's favorite place to go to. So, Venerable, being one of the leading teachers in Tushita, where you kind of lead a lot of retreats, especially for people who are coming in for the first time into the experience of a Buddhist retreat in Dharamsala, what do you see as most people's, or what do you think is people's main challenge in life that they're looking for an answer to when they come to a place like Tushita on a retreat?
Well, I think most people, they're having the same kind of question I was having, and that is, what am I doing here? Like, how do I live my life? What are my goals? What's the meaning of all of this, right? And you know, a lot of the people these days at Tushita, it's very inspiring. About 40–50% actually are Israeli.
Oh.
And as some of you may know, in Israel, they have mandatory military service when they're, you know, 18, 20, like this. After their military service, they're given a small stipend, and then many of them go traveling with that before they start the university or career or whatever. And so many of them, you know, they're young, they've had this very intense experience in the military, and they're just trying to make sense of things. And so, you know, you come, maybe you hear that Buddhism has a sort of framework to make sense of life, and they come very open-minded. Excuse me. They come very open-minded, wanting to, you know, find some answers. So that's, I think, what's driving most people.
Do you think that happiness is a major portion when you say, what am I doing here? When you're saying, what am I doing here? So is that, you know, they want more meaning in their life, and could happiness be a part of that because they're still searching, or what do you think it is?
Well, for sure. this is a question that everyone is sort of playing out in their own minds, right? How to balance the kind of short-term happiness with a more long-term kind of sense of fulfillment. And you've been to Dharamsala, you also know. So Tushita is a little bit above Makadganj, and then in the back is this place called Dharamkot. Yeah. And in Dharamkot, there's also, you know, many parties that go on. Really? So you know, some of the people, right, they're, especially on the beginning of the path, these are some questions they have to figure out. So they'll even go to the 10-day retreat, and then the day it's out, they'll go back to the party, right? So yeah, we all have to kind of think about how these two are going to play and how to balance them in our lives, and especially at the beginning, it's hard to figure out, right? And especially you know, our previous backgrounds. Hey, you know, I used to enjoy, you know, a night on the town, let's just say, right? So me too, after some of my retreats, trying to then make sense of it. You know, what do you do, right? One great American meditation teacher, Jack Kornfield, he wrote a book, After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, right? So you have this meditation experience, maybe, might be very blissful, but then after you come out of the retreat, what do, right? You're going back to your everyday life, and those habituation that we've had from before, or you go back to your own country, and you know, you're the only one in your peer group that meditates, and your friends are calling you up again, hey, let's go out. Yeah. Oh, what do you do? So this is all a question that you know, we have to go through.
Okay. So on this webinar right now, we have like a really diverse audience. We have coaches, mentors, you know, individuals from different walks of life, many leaders in their chosen field. I'm wondering if you could share with us one thing that Buddhism advocates that can benefit everyone here.
Well, that's easy. Yeah. Kindness and altruism, you know, this thought to benefit others. And yeah, that's gonna benefit everyone. Like His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, right? If you want to be happy, practice altruism. If you want others to be happy, practice altruism, right? So definitely that. But just in the phrasing of this question, I'll say one thing else, right? You say that there's many leaders of their chosen field, okay? So the other bit of advice is, if you are the leader of your chosen field, don't think too much that I'm the leader of my chosen field, okay? It reminds me, there's a quotation in the Vajracharika, or the Vajrakara Sutra, where Subhuti, this disciple of the Buddha, at one point he says, you know, I was predicted by the Buddha to be the foremost arhat. So arhat means someone who's attained nirvana, right? Someone who's abandoned the afflictions completely. It means not possible to get angry, not possible to have jealousy, not possible to have pride, right? But he says, so I was the one predicted by the Buddha to be the foremost of the arhats, one who's abandoned the afflictions. But I do not think I am an arhat, the foremost of those who abandoned the afflictions. If I were to think I am an arhat, the foremost who's abandoned the afflictions, I would not have been predicted by the Buddha to be the arhat who's foremost in abandoning the afflictions. Okay. So that's something I think is also very important to keep in mind, right? The sense of humility. Even the Dalai Lama is so much emphasizing, right? Although he is, you know, the Dalai Lama and kind of universally acclaimed and loved, he says when he meets people, he doesn't think, oh, I'm the Dalai Lama, I'm this great scholar, yogi, practitioner, but he tries to connect with people just on a very human level, right? Human being to human being. And he often mentions, he just considers himself to be one of the 7 billion humans on this planet. And then when you have that thought, okay, so the flip side, I am the Dalai Lama, I'm the best in my field, I'm like this, then you're already putting up some kind of separation between you and the person you're interacting with. So instead, just connecting on a human level. I'm a human being, I'm going through my struggles. Hey, you know what? This person is too. We're the same. Okay, given that, how can I help them? What do they need right now? And be open to that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because this ties in so well with what we do as coaches, having unconditional positive regard for people, not judging people, looking at people as equal. So having kindness, having compassion, having, altruism, like you said, it fits in so well. And yeah, I think what you said about leaders is so true. Leaders need to have emotional intelligence. They need to understand people more and not lead from a place of ego, but lead from a place of service. So I really appreciate what you said about that. So Venerable, since you moved to India 18 years ago and you became an ordained monk 16 years ago, what is the most special thing about Indian culture and people that you like, on a lighter note?
I'll tell you, the prevalence of and ease of getting vegetarian food in India. Really.
Yeah,
So
I know.
you might not appreciate this unless you've been to India, but in every Indian restaurant, they have it so clearly marked, a vegetarian section versus non-veg.
Yes.
Even all the packaging, it has a green dot. Yes. if it's veg, right? Here in the US, I'm having to read labels. Oh, is there this, right? It's not always clear, right? And so that is just a kind of signal that the whole culture, it is thinking about these things, right? The food I consume, right? Where is it coming from? Is it made from having to kill an animal, right? And so the fact that this sort of pervades and permeates the whole culture is something very, very unique and special in the world. And that shows a lot about the mentality of the Indian culture, where this concept of ahimsa, nonviolence is firmly rooted in the whole culture. And that's what I think is wonderful.
Thank you. So can you explain to us briefly, how does Buddhism explain the concept of the self and the nature of the mind?
Yes. Okay. Well, we don't have so much time, so I'll say something, just give you a taste. But one thing you have to keep in mind in Buddhism is there's always this concept discussed about the 2 levels of truth, right? So there's the conventional truth and the ultimate truth. Okay. So the conventional truth, just think of it as what the world, so those people not even trained in any philosophy, any philosophical system, right? So what they generally accept, right? So in general, cars, tables, you, me, all of these things exist. And they exist like we would normally conceive them. Someone untrained in philosophy, how do they conceive? Yeah, do you exist? Yeah, I exist. I'm here, I'm talking, I'm sitting, I'm in Hawaii, right? I woke up early. Oh, I got nervous before the talk today. Okay, all these things, no problem. That is the conventional truth, okay? And so whether we talk about the self, whether we talk about the mind, so the self is just how on the conventional level, just like we normally think, right? We're a person, we are, changing, growing, developing. hopefully. And, we get upset. We are, encountering various obstacles. We are suffering. We're sometimes happy, right? All that. The same. Then when we talk about the mind, okay, the mind is the experiencer, right? We can, there's different types of mind. We have the positive states of mind. We have negative states of mind. Okay, all that same. When we talk about the ultimate level, then it gets a little bit more complicated philosophically. And without getting into that, there's 4 tenet systems within Buddhism. Of course, there's the Tibetan tradition, Zen tradition, Theravada tradition, all these things. But one thing that is clear and accepted by all the Buddhist philosophical schools is this self, or even the mind. It's not as fixed as we sometimes think it to be, right? So it is, impermanent. It is changing, right? And so part of the change, is that means it can develop, right? If we, train our mind in a certain way, we can have, different results in the future. And that, I think, for all of us is a very important thing to keep in mind, right? Again, in the kind of personal development literature, in pop media, right? We have, the Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck talk about the fixed mindset or the growth mindset, right? So sometimes we have this fixed mindset. Oh, I'm not intelligent. Oh, I'm not, good. I'm not a good public speaker. All this stuff, right? And we can kind of crystallize that conception of ourselves, or even, with others, right? Oh, I don't get along with that person. Oh, I don't feel connected with that person, right? So even this we can sort of cling on to as being the truth. Yeah. But that's the fixed mindset. But the growth mindset is, hey, all these things can change, right? I'm not a good public speaker now. I can develop. I can get experience. I can learn how to do this better, right? Or learning languages. I didn't know how to speak Tibetan 20 years ago. We can do it, right? Or even in our relationships. Hey, I'm feeling a bit, like my relationship with my friend. Oh yeah, we've kind of drifted apart a bit. Well, you can pick up the phone, call them, and work on the relationship. So all of these things, right? It's in our hands, right? Yeah. And so that's very important to keep in mind as we go on our journey of personal development.
Thank you, Venerable, for sharing that. So for my last question, before we open it for Q&A, a hypothetical question. I mean, it's going to happen one day, but for now it's hypothetical. If it were your last day on earth, that's what I meant by it's going to happen one day. If it were your last day on earth, what are the 3 things that you would want everyone to know so that they could be better people, either personally or professionally, from from a holistic point of view, like from a...
Yes. Okay. So I actually, as I was thinking about this question, then I got a bit stuck because, I got stuck on the fact, like, wait a minute. If you were just to ask me, what were the 3 things you want everyone to know to make them better people? Okay. Then you say, if it were your last day on earth, what were the 3 things you would want people to know? And I'm like, wait a minute. There's no difference. There's no difference.
Yeah.
Right. So in part, because, as a Buddhist practitioner, I'm thinking every day about my impending mortality. Probably all the things I wanted you to know, hey, I've already said in the last 49 minutes, I'm not saving things for the end. Right? But probably one thing that I haven't mentioned, and since there are a lot of coaches out there, one thing I haven't touched on yet is just this this thought that I think would be very helpful to be very attentive and present to what people need. And in my own sort of short career of, teaching or trying to guide people, I've really learned that people, sometimes they don't need the answer, right? They're coming to you for advice. They don't need the answer all the time, right?
Yeah.
And, sometimes, so there's a great podcaster, Derek Sivers. He said, if knowing the right answer were enough, we would all be billionaires with six-pack abs, right? So, sometimes it's not the answer, but we know the answer, but we need to build a system of habits where we can, go and, make steady progress toward that goal, right? But even putting that aside, sometimes people just need to feel listened to, right? People, they're explaining some problem. They don't want to be lectured, oh, you should do this, 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 this. They just want to air it out and talk, hey, I'm going through this difficult time. And they want someone to really listen to them and be present with them, and not be, checking on their phone or whatever. They just want to feel heard. And they want that human connection. They want to feel that this person they're talking to really empathizes with their situation, And so, sometimes people, they just want to be hugged and told everything's going to be okay, right? So to be present, even when you're going into your coaching session, and really think, okay, what does this person need now? How, and I come in with a fixed view, like, okay, oh, this, here's the answer to your problem. Here's the solution, right? To be open to that. Yeah. I think that's something, we can all work on, and it will actually make these relationships better.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You nailed it. I mean, that's exactly what we as coaches learn, to support people, not to give advice or not to tell them, because they already have the answers. So thank you for touching on that. I'm just going to move into a few questions that I can pick up. Kiva, if there's anything, you can just let me know. I'm just going, anti-clockwise, or not anti-clockwise, but I'm scrolling down, up. So the one, I think it's Sangeeta. Sangeeta Mathur says, respected Tenzin sir, curious to know what dilemmas you faced in your journey and what helped you to overcome them. Thank you. So Venerable, you can answer that. Could you answer that, please? You're on mute.
Sorry, I muted myself. Well, some of this I touched on already with this dichotomy of the long versus short term, but on a more practical level, I'm part of a 19 to 25 year study program, and as I mentioned at the start of the journey, when I was thinking, I'm really going to go for it, liberation, enlightenment, yeah, and I had all that energy. To be very honest, this Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 rule, right? That 80% of your results are coming from 20% of your effort. Now, when I look back, I was still in that 20% where I was on that, exponential uptick, right? And I was learning so much, I was developing so much, I could see progress so easily. And now, right, after the ecstasy, the laundry, now I definitely have seen my own development sort of plateau, right? And now I'm in that phase where it's that 80% of the effort to get that last 20% of the results. Yeah. And when that happens, when the honeymoon period is over, then a lot of questions are coming, right? Well, I'm on this long-term program, and is this really serving my needs the best way now? right? Is there another kind of situation or scenario which would be better suited for my growth, right? And, I've been on this highly academic sort of endeavor. Well, are there other ways of growing? Are there other ways of practicing? Are there other experiences I could have that will more round out my development? And so what did I do to overcome them? I haven't overcome anything. I am thinking about this, day to day. And, in part, in the past few years, I've been trying to, round out my experience by, listening to Derek Sivers and some of these other, the more kind of popular sort of personal development blogs and podcasts and all that. But also, as I've said, just allowing this uncertainty, giving it space, and not feeling, I have to have all the answers right now. And not feeling like, oh my gosh, now I'm having these doubts whether to continue, and that being such a big deal, right? Allowing myself just to be open and having a kind of, again, the long-term perspective, everything is going to be okay. And just trying to take care of the present and take things one step at a time, right? One day at a time. And then, yeah, do the same thing again tomorrow.
Okay. There's a lady called Andalusia Stefan who's asked a question. How does coaching, which is so non-directive, especially under ICF rules, interlace with Buddhism, which is so strict? So do you want to comment on Buddhism being so strict?
Yeah. So I don't think Buddhism is so strict, right? You see, one major difference is, it's not that there is some God or even the Buddha who's sitting on a cloud with a clipboard and, oh, you stepped on an ant, okay, minus 10 karma points, right? But what the Buddha taught, he taught cause and effect, right? And with anything, it is, if you cultivate certain causes, you're going to have certain effects, right? So just with diet, right? It's not that if you have the sugar donut or you drink the soda or all this, that you're a bad person or, you're going to be punished. But given the context of your fitness goals, your overall health, eating sugar has certain effects on the body. So if you don't want those effects, hey, maybe you should think twice about eating sugar, right? So it's like that. So, in general, what the Buddha is talking about is there are certain destructive states of mind, anger, jealousy, pride, attachment. When you have these states of mind in an uncontrolled way, those will propel you to do actions that will not be constructive for you and those around you. So because of that, here's some tools where you can work with your mind such that the negative states of mind won't be so strong and you can gain control over that. But when you slip up, it's not that you're a bad person. It's not that these negative states of mind, they're not fully under control yet. So then, hey, try again next time. So for that reason, it's not like this whole rule book and you have to follow all these rules. Otherwise, Buddha's not going to like you or you're going to, go to hell or something like this. It's all sort of putting it into, your world, your decision. What's the kind of life that you want to live?
Yeah.
And taking responsibility. Yeah.
I just want to add something here based on, what Anda just said. I think the principles of Buddhism, which revolve around non-judgment, compassion, mindfulness. I think those relate to coaching really well. I mean, yes, everybody tells me the same thing, that, Buddhists are very strict and you guys are so depressing. You talk about death all the time and it's like, karma. But I think those are, like you very well explained. I don't need to explain those because you did a great job and you know much better, you know much more than me. But I was just thinking about the opposite side of, what the Buddha spoke about and how, the components of love and compassion, that fits in so well with coaching, because we need to be compassionate. We need to be non-judgmental. We need to have mindfulness and awareness to like you said, when you go into a coaching session, to partner with that person against dictating to the person or providing a solution or telling them what to do. So I don't know whether that answered your question, but I think you got two sides of it, Anda. So I hope that helps. I can't see any more questions, but a lot of, appreciation for you, Venerable, a lot of appreciation and a lot of, great comments about you. And I think I'll hand it back to Kiva. It's been fascinating talking to you. I mean, interviewing you. We've had many conversations, you and I, over the last 12 to 13 years. But it was fascinating. And I feel really, really honored that I got to share you with the rest of my coaching fraternity and everyone at Coacharya. And I hope that everyone was benefited by this. And Venerable, like you always say, would you like to dedicate the merit of this to all sentient beings?
Sure, yeah. So thank you, Avril. Thank you, Kiva, sorry. And all the rest at Coacharya, all those who have tuned in, thank you for your time. And I did see one more thing in the chat about some practical things for altruism. And the main thing, right? Of course, we have to try to have really put ourselves in the other person's shoes. And when we do that, then this feeling of altruism can come more. And to also think of the interdependent nature of all the relationships, right? So in some way, right, I'm the lecturer, but even having this lecture depends on people coming to the lecture, right? And you being a coach, you're depending on your mentee, right? So even recognizing this, it can sort of help bridge that gap of, me up here, you down there. We're all interdependent. We all depend on each other in ways big and small. So then, and knowing also that everyone is going through their own difficulties, right? And, yes, the Buddha talks a lot about suffering. Well, there is a lot of suffering in the world. Let's be honest. It's not always, rainbows and, sunsets on the beach, right? And so just, recognizing and thinking of the own struggles you've gone through when you meet someone, hey, they're going through their own things. So now I have the choice. How am I going to interact with this person? And am I going to make their life a little bit better today in the small ways that I can? And choose that.
Wow. Thank you, Venerable. So I just want to end with a one sentence that, that I know you said that, that your hero's journey is really like yours, like a small piece of this whole thing. But I mean, I've seen you for, a many years, and you truly epitomize to me, a hero's journey from where you were and to where you are now. And you've truly been an inspiration to me. So the first person who I wanted to feature on this podcast was you, because you are somebody who I always equate with having so much to offer, but you're very humble. And so for me, you're like, in yoga, you have the humble warrior pose. So for me, you're like the humble hero. So I'm very happy that you did this. And thank you for your blessing and for your great interaction. And a lot of people, there's a lady, Jennifer, who said that you're a natural coach. I think you are, because I mean, I know that in our center, everybody comes to you with all their problems. Out of all the venerables, they come to you because you can talk to anybody and you understand people at a very deep level. So thank you for that. And Kiva, thank you. You've been wonderful as usual. Thank you to all the Coacharya fraternity and everybody who's tuned in here. I hope you had benefit from this. And tell your friends about the hero's journey. It's happening every month. And thank you once again. I don't know whether Venerable is going to go back to sleep now, but it's a brand new day in Hawaii.
Yeah, no more sleep.
No more sleep.
I'm too revved up now.
Thank you, Venerable.
So thank you for the kind words, Avril. Thank you for all who've attended. I hope you received some benefit, and yeah, best of luck in your journeys as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Venerable Tenzin. Thank you so much, Venerable Tenzin, for joining us today, and Avril for hosting this webinar series. A truly enriching conversation, and I think a lot of takeaways for everybody, be it from the coaching community or from outside. So just very, very grateful to you, and thank you to all our participants for joining in.